lose me, who know I'm into control, too in tune with my soul, young but spirit old, too strong, too bold, most niggas never told, too proud, too bold, won't ever sell my soul, won't ever sell my soul, always keep a glow, natural, so damn spiritual, too damn lyrical, watch my lyrics go, 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 gadget if I gotta get the ratchet, these people
I have frightened my friends and family much of my life, for various reasons, but for the sake of this story, because I trust strangers. Not ever with anything more than I'm prepared to lose, but I have often had little to lose, so I choose trust. Often, the act of trusting a human makes them people worthy of trust. Not always. Often. It goes along with my theory that when you treat people like human beings, they have a tendency to behave like human beings. We, as people, want to live up to how we are seen when it is in a positive light, and we see little reason to fight hard against how we are seen when it is in an immediate negative light, especially when we have nothing else to lose. So when someone with nothing to lose receives trust from us, they have an inclination to want to keep it. Sometimes I err in judgment, but I have never regretted it. Even through absolute betrayal, there is something to learn. This is a story of one of those times. I was working at a tiny bar in Hell's Kitchen, Digiac, short for Aphrodisiac, and I was trying to build a customer base. I ended up, by the time it closed, building a community. One evening, a man I'd never met before came into the bar. White guy, mid to late 30s, wearing business casual and carrying a briefcase. Not uncommon. We will call him John. He was friendly and excitable, albeit potentially narcissistic, and he spent hours with my few customers talking about himself and pretending to be happy. I immediately saw his self-loathing under what I considered to be a poor covering, but he joked and smiled, and everyone had a great time. At the end of the evening, there were only a few of us left, and he said he needed to go to the ATM to get cash. He had bought a few rounds for others, and his tab was probably around $80. He said he would leave his briefcase, which I deemed silly because we'd all bonded by this point, but I didn't argue because he would be right back. He never returned. I became worried that something happened to him, but I stashed his briefcase and closed up for the night, eating his tab out of my tips. The next day, when there was still no word, I opened his briefcase to see if I could find a way to contact him. It was filled with trash. It was a trash briefcase. Like, literally, garbage, broken tech stuff, wadded up pieces of paper, wires with frayed ends, etc. Nothing to even sell to recover the cost of the tab. And I laughed. Touché. Well done, sir, for $80. Now, $80 was a lot for me. I was poor and in New York, and I was never sure if I would make rent. But at the same time, it's only $80. Clearly, this guy's life is worse than mine if he has to pretend for hours just to get some drinks. I sat on the trash briefcase for a few days, just in case, before I let it go. And I thought little about the encounter again, and I continued to let people go to the ATM without even trash briefcase collateral. And 6 months later, I saw him on the street. And I got that adrenaline surge I get when the universe allows me to see a story to the end. And I walked up to him and smiled and said, "Hey, John, right?" He looked a little disoriented, maybe slightly concerned, like he was trying to place me, so I continued. "Karen," I said, still smiling, "you came in my bar down the street a while ago and left me a trash briefcase in exchange for your tab that you never came back to pay." He started to stammer a sorry or something, and still smiling, I cut him off. "No, it's okay. I ate it. I paid the tab because my bar shouldn't have to pay for my choosing to trust people. I didn't have the money, really, but I paid it anyway because I chose to trust you." And then I felt my face go serious and dark, and I looked him square in the eye and said, "And you can do that to me because I will always choose trust. You can't burn me because I've been burned by the best of them, and I still choose trust. I don't know how you found me, but I'm glad it was me you found and not someone else, because everyone can't do that. And one day you are going to pick someone to con for whom trust is difficult, and you will be the reason they stop trusting people. It may be a game for you or it may be a means of survival, but just know that you could be responsible for permanently breaking a person's faith in humanity. That is bigger than $80 or you getting to drink free for the night. That is everything. You will pick a fragile person who believes in you, and you will contribute to creating a world that I do not want to live in. He stared at me, in fear, in shock, and I said, so, get your shit together. And I walked on and left him frozen on the street. Now, for another person, that would be the end of the story. But oh, my beautiful, serendipitous, magical life. 2 years later, I sat down in a neighborhood bar and I ordered a drink. Immediately next to me, I heard a voice that seemed familiar. I heard the guy next to me, who was turned facing a girl on the other side of him, laugh. And I turned to see him. I had to tap him on the shoulder to get a good look, and when he turned very quietly, I said, "Hey, John, right?" He looked a little disoriented, maybe slightly concerned, like he was trying to place me, so I continued. "Karen," I said softly. "You came in my bar down the street a few years ago and left me a trash briefcase in exchange for your tab that you never came back to pay." "Oh my God," he says. "I was hoping I would run into you someday." And he asked if he could hug me. See, I saw him again. This time, lighter. The self-loathing was dimmed, the laughter was real. And he proceeded to apologize profusely. I told him that wasn't necessary. I told him he looked better. He said, "I am better." And then he told the whole story to his friend on the other side of him, the same story I told. Now, I don't know if you realize how uncommon that is. It's never the same story from two perspectives. But he left nothing out, and he treated it with gravity and importance and only a hint of shame. Like someone who already made it through the shame part, not like someone who didn't get there yet. His friend talked about how dark that time in his life was. She said he was so bad that he cut off all of his friends out of his life from shame. And he told me his story of relationships and family and job loss and shame and depression. And he thanked me, and he bought me a drink. So, now, I'm not saying that my street lecture did anything other than make me feel better. I have no idea what his world would have looked like without the bartender trash briefcase story in it. I do know that in my life, experiences are not monetarily quantifiable. And I choose to choose trust. I choose trust because it is so rare and so necessary, and it is one of the free, easy things that makes this hellscape of a life worth living. I choose trust because I know I will receive it back when I give it away. I choose trust because I don't know where you are today, but I know every day everyone gets a chance to wake up and be a new person. And even if you betray my trust today, who's to say that tomorrow you won't become somebody who deserves it? Who's to say that one day you won't learn how to choose trust for yourself? And I choose trust because even when it isn't deserved, it can make a great story.
All it took was practice, dedication and action, meditation with passion. That's how I've made magic.
Hey, I just made my $80 back by sharing this with you.
If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. Didn't waste time to get this far, not to get in. I'm kicking down the door, breaking the hinges. If the feet don't work, I'm using hammer wrenches. Work too hard for this with the extra distance. Nothing won't stop me like pandemics. When I start something, I have to finish. Business first, no matter how deep the friendship. Hard to work, getting tired to emotions. Some people need manuals to learn to drive. Not me, I was born with it, it gives me life. Put my dream before all, ultimate sacrifice. Pay my dues, put in that overtime. All it took was practice, dedication and action, meditation with passion. That's how I've made magic. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick open that door. If I'm waiting too long at that door, I knock on that door. If I'm knocking too long at that door, I kick